In a world that moves faster every day, where headlines change by the hour and instant gratification often drives decision making, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. The choices we make right now can either pave the way for a sustainable, prosperous future or lock us into cycles of short-lived wins followed by long-term setbacks. The most meaningful progress in history, whether in technology, health, or society, has come not from chasing immediate gains, but from a steady commitment to thinking ahead, investing wisely, and accepting that some of the biggest challenges require patience and persistence. When we look at the world today, it's clear that the challenges we face are unlike anything humanity has dealt with before. From climate change accelerating faster than anticipated, to the ever-present threat of global pandemics, the problems we must solve demand more than just good intentions. They require an unwavering commitment to science and innovation. This is not a matter of politics or personal agendas. It's a matter of survival and progress. The world is interconnected in ways that amplify both risks and opportunities, and science is the tool that allows us to navigate this complexity with clarity and purpose. Innovation is often misunderstood as something flashy or disruptive happening only in Silicon Valley or research labs. But innovation is much broader and deeper than that. It is the steady, persistent progress in understanding how the world works and applying that knowledge to improve lives. It's the development of better vaccines that protect millions, the creation of clean energy technologies that reduce our carbon footprint, and the design of systems that make food and water accessible to growing populations. This is where real impact lies, in the ability to translate knowledge into solutions that scale globally. What we're facing now is a kind of emergency that demands scientific rigor and creative problem solving on a scale never seen before. Climate change, for example, is not a distant threat anymore. It is happening now, affecting agriculture, health, and economies around the world. To slow it down and eventually reverse the damage, we need breakthroughs in energy storage, carbon capture, and alternative fuels. These breakthroughs will come from sustained investment in research and development, paired with policies that encourage innovation and deployment. This is not a problem that can be fixed with slogans or short-term policy fixes. It requires deep scientific understanding combined with the patience to see technologies through development, testing, and adoption. Similarly, the recent global pandemic showed us both the power and the limitations of current science and innovation. Within a year, vaccines were developed and deployed at an unprecedented speed. That accomplishment came from decades of research and the ability to use new technologies like mRNA, but it also revealed gaps in global readiness, supply chains, and equitable access. Moving forward, the lesson is clear. We must invest in basic science now so that when the next threat emerges, we are ready. Preparedness means funding the early-stage research that may not have immediate commercial value, but is essential for rapid response. Another important aspect is recognizing that science and innovation don't happen in isolation. Breakthroughs require collaboration across disciplines and borders. The biggest problems don't respect national boundaries, they are global by nature. That means the scientific community, governments, private sector, and civil society must work together in transparent and inclusive ways. Sharing data, funding joint research projects, and creating global platforms for innovation are all crucial. There is no room for protectionism or rivalry when the stakes are so high. It's also vital to ensure that the benefits of innovation reach everyone. Too often, new technologies remain in the hands of a few or in wealthy countries, leaving behind billions who could most benefit from advances in health, energy, and agriculture. Closing this gap is not just a moral imperative, it's essential for stability and growth worldwide. When more people have access to the tools and knowledge to improve their lives, the entire global economy benefits and progress accelerates. Of course, science and innovation need support beyond just funding. They need leadership that values evidence over ideology, long-term thinking over immediate gratification, and humility over hubris. The issues we face are complex, and quick fixes are rarely the answer. Leaders must be willing to listen to experts, embrace uncertainty, and commit to solutions that might not pay off for years or decades. This kind of stewardship is difficult in political environments driven by short election cycles and media soundbites, but it is absolutely necessary. At its core, investing in science and innovation is an investment in our future. It's about building resilience in our health systems, in our economies, and in our environment. It's about creating opportunities for the next generation to live in a world that is cleaner, healthier, and more equitable. This will not happen by chance. It requires deliberate choices and consistent effort. Ultimately, science offers us a path forward filled with hope. It shows us what is possible when human curiosity meets rigorous inquiry and the will to act. If we commit ourselves to this path by supporting research, fostering collaboration, and prioritizing sustainable innovation, we can overcome the greatest challenges of our time and build a better world for all. So when we think about the future, it's not enough to simply hope things will get better. We must put our resources and energy into science and innovation because they are the engines of progress. Without them, the problems will only grow more severe. With them, there is a chance, not just to survive, but to thrive. In the world we live in today, the idea that competition alone will drive progress is outdated. While competition has its place in spurring innovation and efficiency when it comes to the massive, complex challenges we face, whether in health, climate, or technology, collaboration is not just preferable, it is absolutely essential. The problems are simply too big, too interconnected, and too urgent for any one person, company, or even country to solve on their own. The future depends on breaking down silos and working together across borders, disciplines, and sectors. History shows us that some of humanity's greatest achievements have come from collective effort. The eradication of smallpox, for example, wasn't the result of a single breakthrough or the work of one organization. It was the culmination of decades of shared knowledge, coordinated efforts by international health agencies, governments, and scientists around the world. This kind of cooperation is exactly what we need more of today. No single country or corporation can single-handedly address the climate crisis or eliminate infectious diseases. It's a shared responsibility that requires shared commitment. One of the biggest barriers to collaboration is the mindset that someone else's success comes at your expense. This zero-sum thinking leads to rivalry, secrecy, and protectionism, which slow progress and waste valuable resources. But in reality, many of the solutions we need can be accelerated by openness and cooperation. When companies, governments, and researchers share data, insights, and best practices, everyone benefits. This kind of collaboration allows us to build on each other's strengths, avoid duplication of effort, and accelerate discovery. We see this most clearly in the field of scientific research. During the recent global health crisis, the rapid sharing of genomic data, clinical findings, and vaccine technology platforms was crucial in developing vaccines faster than ever before. This was not a time for guarding secrets or competing in isolation. It was a moment when the global community recognized that working together could save millions of lives. And yet, even with this success, there remain challenges around equitable access and distribution, reminders that collaboration needs to be more inclusive and more coordinated. Beyond the scientific community, collaboration must extend to public policy and business strategy. Governments have a unique role in creating environments where innovation can thrive through partnerships rather than competition alone. Policies that encourage open standards, data sharing, and joint ventures create ecosystems where multiple players can contribute. At the same time, businesses should see collaboration as a strategic advantage rather than a threat. By partnering with others, even competitors, they can co-create solutions that no single company could develop on its own, particularly in areas like clean energy or sustainable agriculture. Another critical dimension is international cooperation. Climate change is the ultimate global challenge because carbon emissions and environmental impacts cross borders indiscriminately. No country acting alone can solve it. It requires nations to work together on emissions targets, share technology, and finance adaptation efforts in vulnerable regions. Yet this kind of cooperation is often hampered by political differences, mistrust, and competing economic interests. Overcoming these barriers requires leaders to prioritize long-term global welfare over short-term national gains and to recognize that a rising tide lifts all boats. We also need to remember that collaboration isn't just about institutions or governments, it's about people. Bringing diverse perspectives together leads to better, more creative solutions. Teams that cross disciplines, cultures, and experiences are more likely to identify blind spots and innovate beyond traditional boundaries. This kind of inclusive collaboration empowers communities, scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs to contribute in ways that multiply impact. Of course, collaboration is not always easy. It requires patience, compromise, and sometimes a willingness to put aside ego or immediate gain for the sake of a bigger goal. But the alternative is far worse. When everyone competes in isolation, resources get wasted, efforts get duplicated, and progress slows. When groups collaborate, resources are pooled, ideas build on each other, and breakthroughs happen faster. In today's world, the pace of change is accelerating, and the stakes have never been higher. To keep up, we must break down walls between companies, countries, and disciplines, and build bridges instead. This doesn't mean abandoning competition entirely, but rather balancing it with a spirit of cooperation that amplifies strengths and accelerates solutions. Ultimately, embracing collaboration over competition is a mindset shift. It's recognizing that no single person or organization has all the answers, and that by working together, we can achieve far more than the sum of our individual parts. The challenges before us are complex and urgent, but so too is our capacity for innovation and partnership. When these forces combine, the possibilities are immense. So as we look toward the future, the question is not whether we can afford to collaborate, it's whether we can afford not to. The risks of going it alone are simply too great, but the rewards of working together, building healthier societies, stabilizing the climate, and expanding opportunity are within reach, if only we have the wisdom and courage to seize them. When someone holds significant influence, whether through leadership, wealth, or technological power, that influence brings with it a profound responsibility. Influence is not simply a privilege or a tool for personal gain. It is a force that shapes societies, economies, and even the future of our planet. Those who have it must recognize that their decisions ripple far beyond their immediate circles, affecting millions of lives in ways that demand thoughtful stewardship and a commitment to the greater good. In today's interconnected world, the reach of influential individuals or organizations is unprecedented. The technology created or controlled by a handful of people can impact billions, shaping communication, information access, health, and even the political landscape. This power is extraordinary, but with it comes a need for ethical consideration and foresight. Decisions made in boardrooms or political offices don't just affect shareholders or voters. They influence public trust, social cohesion, and the well-being of communities globally. Too often, influence is wielded without adequate regard for its broader consequences. The temptation to prioritize short-term gains, whether financial, political, or reputational, can overshadow the long-term impacts that decisions have on society and the environment. This short-sightedness undermines trust and, ultimately, the very foundations of influence itself. Sustainable leadership requires looking beyond immediate outcomes and investing in solutions that benefit not only today, but generations to come. There is a clear distinction between power and responsibility. While power can be used to command or dominate, responsibility demands care, humility, and an understanding of interconnectedness. The most effective leaders are those who see themselves as custodians rather than owners of influence. They recognize that their role is to serve the public interest, to use their position to drive progress on the most pressing challenges, and to create systems that uplift rather than divide. This responsibility also extends to transparency and accountability. Influence cannot be exercised in a vacuum or behind closed doors if it is to earn public confidence. Stakeholders, whether citizens, customers, or employees, have a right to understand how decisions are made and to hold leaders accountable for the outcome. Transparency builds trust and invites collaboration, which in turn leads to better decisions and more sustainable impact. Another important aspect is the ethical use of data and technology. The tools at the disposal of influential actors today, from artificial intelligence to social media platforms, carry enormous potential for good but also significant risks. Misuse or neglect can lead to misinformation, privacy violations, and social polarization. Those who develop and control these technologies must take seriously their responsibility to prevent harm, protect rights, and ensure equitable access. Leadership that embraces responsibility also means investing in resilience and preparedness. The crises we face, climate change, pandemics, economic disruptions, are complex and multifaceted. Influential actors have the means to support systems that can withstand shocks and adapt to changing conditions. This involves funding research, supporting education, and collaborating with diverse stakeholders to build infrastructure that serves the public interest over the long term. It is important to remember that influence is not static. It is earned and maintained through consistent action and integrity. The trust that underpins influence can be lost quickly if leaders act solely out of self-interest or ignore the voices of those affected by their decisions. Conversely, when leaders demonstrate responsibility, listen openly, and engage authentically with communities, they strengthen their influence and create a positive feedback loop of progress and goodwill. Ultimately, the question is not whether those with influence have responsibilities. They always do. The real question is how they choose to exercise it. Will they use their position to accelerate solutions to the world's most pressing problems? Will they prioritize ethical considerations over expediency? Will they commit to transparency and inclusivity? The answers to these questions will shape not only the legacy of those leaders, but the future trajectory of societies around the globe. In a time when distrust in institutions and leaders is rising, demonstrating responsibility is more critical than ever. It is a path to rebuilding confidence and inspiring collective action. Influence, when coupled with responsibility, becomes a powerful force for good, a force that can drive innovation, promote equity, and ensure that progress benefits all people, not just a select few. In this sense, responsibility is not a burden but an opportunity to lead with purpose and vision, to make decisions that reflect a deep understanding of their impact, and to contribute meaningfully to a better world. It requires courage to face difficult truths, humility to listen and learn, and a commitment to putting the common good ahead of personal ambition. The future depends on those with influence stepping up to this responsibility. It is a call to action that cannot be ignored. When influence is paired with responsibility, the possibilities for positive change are limitless, and that is the kind of leadership the world needs now more than ever. Education and access to knowledge are the foundations upon which societies build their future. When people have the tools to learn, innovate, and improve their lives, entire communities and nations can thrive. This is not a theoretical idea. It is a proven reality time and again. Yet, despite the advances in technology and the increasing wealth in many parts of the world, a large portion of the global population still lacks access to quality education and the opportunities it creates. Addressing this gap must be a priority because without investing in education and ensuring access to information and resources, progress will remain uneven and fragile. The transformative power of education is evident across all sectors. Health outcomes improve when individuals understand hygiene, nutrition, and preventive care. Economies grow when workers acquire skills relevant to evolving industries. Societies become more equitable when barriers to learning and opportunity are dismantled. In a world where technology is rapidly changing how we work and communicate, education is not just about literacy or numeracy. It's about equipping people with critical thinking, adaptability, and lifelong learning skills. One of the most pressing challenges is to ensure that education reaches everyone, especially those in marginalized communities. Too often, geography, poverty, or social inequalities prevent children and adults from accessing quality schooling. This exclusion perpetuates cycles of poverty and limits the potential for innovation and growth. To address this, investments must be made not only in physical infrastructure, such as schools and technology, but also in teacher training, curriculum development, and educational materials that are relevant to local contexts. Technology has an incredible role to play in expanding access to education. Digital platforms can bring lessons to remote areas, provide personalized learning, and connect students with resources that were previously unavailable. However, technology alone is not a silver bullet. Access to devices, reliable internet, and digital literacy are prerequisites that many still lack. Closing the digital divide requires coordinated efforts between governments, the private sector, and civil society to build infrastructure and develop affordable, scalable solutions. Access extends beyond formal education systems. Lifelong learning and skill development must be part of the conversation, especially as automation and artificial intelligence reshape the job market. Workers need opportunities to reskill and upskill to remain competitive and adapt to new roles. This means creating flexible educational pathways, supporting vocational training, and encouraging a culture that values continuous learning. Equity in education is also critical. Historically underserved populations, including girls and women, rural communities, and minority groups, often face greater barriers. Targeted investments that address these disparities are essential to unlock the full potential of every individual. When education systems are inclusive and equitable, societies benefit from a diversity of perspectives and talents that fuel innovation and social cohesion. Moreover, education must emphasize not only technical skills, but also values such as empathy, cooperation, and global awareness. These are necessary to navigate the complex challenges of today's world, From climate change to public health crises that require collective action and understanding across cultures and borders, the responsibility to invest in education and access is not solely that of governments. The private sector has a vital role to play in funding, innovation, and partnership. Philanthropic efforts have demonstrated the impact that strategic investments can have when aligned with evidence-based practices. Public-private collaborations can leverage the strengths of each sector to create scalable, sustainable educational solutions. Measuring progress is essential. Investment without accountability can lead to wasted resources or initiatives that fail to meet the needs of learners. Data-driven approaches allow stakeholders to identify gaps, understand what works, and continuously improve educational outcomes. Transparency and community involvement ensure that education systems remain responsive and inclusive. At its core, investing in education and access is an investment in human potential. It is about creating opportunities for people to realize their talents, contribute to their communities, and improve their quality of life. This investment pays dividends not just in economic growth, but in social stability, health, and the capacity to solve complex problems. The benefits of widespread education and access ripple across generations. Children raised in educated households are more likely to attend school themselves and to raise healthier families. Societies with high levels of education tend to have stronger democracies, more innovation, and greater resilience to crises. Looking ahead, the scale and urgency of global challenges demand that education systems evolve and expand rapidly. We need to harness new technologies and pedagogies, break down barriers to access, and ensure that no one is left behind. This will require sustained commitment, innovation, and cooperation among all stakeholders. In the end, ensuring education and access for all is not just a moral imperative. It is a strategic necessity for building a better, more equitable, and prosperous future. It is the foundation upon which we can address the other challenges we face. When knowledge is shared widely and fairly, the possibilities for progress become limitless. This is why investing in education and access must remain at the forefront of our efforts to shape a better world. In today's fast-paced world, there is an overwhelming pressure to deliver quick results. Whether it's in business, politics, or technology, the temptation to focus on short-term gains can be intense. However, history and experience consistently show that the greatest and most lasting progress comes from long-term thinking, careful planning, sustained effort, and patience. The challenges we face today, from climate change to public health, require solutions that may not pay off immediately, but will yield profound benefits over years or decades. Prioritizing short-term wins at the expense of long-term goals often leads to setbacks, missed opportunities, and in some cases, irreversible damage. Short-term thinking is understandable. It aligns with natural human tendencies and with many external incentives. Quarterly earnings reports, election cycles, and media attention all favor immediate, visible successes. Leaders feel the pressure to show results quickly to maintain support or prove value. But this mindset often leads to decisions that sacrifice future stability for present appearance. For example, cutting corners on research and development to boost current profits might deliver a short-term spike in revenue, but leaves a company vulnerable to competitors and technological disruption in the future. In public policy, the tension between immediate demands and long-term investment is even more apparent. Infrastructure projects, education reform, or environmental protection often require years to manifest benefits, while politicians face re-election every few years. This mismatch creates incentives to prioritize popular but short-lived initiatives rather than durable solutions that address root causes. The consequences are policies that lack resilience and fail to prepare societies for future crises. Long-term thinking requires a different kind of leadership, one that can envision the future clearly, communicate that vision effectively, and remain committed despite uncertainty and opposition. It involves embracing complexity and accepting that meaningful progress takes time. It demands investment in research, innovation, and human capital, even when the payoff is not immediate. This kind of thinking has been behind many of the world's most important advances, from the eradication of diseases to the development of clean energy technologies. One of the key aspects of long-term thinking is the recognition of interconnectedness. Decisions made today affect not only the current generation, but also those to come. For example, how we manage natural resources, emit greenhouse gases, or structure education systems will shape economic, social, and environmental outcomes for decades. This awareness fosters a sense of stewardship, a responsibility to act as caretakers of the future rather than merely beneficiaries of the present. Long-term thinking also encourages resilience. By preparing for a range of possible futures and investing in systems that can adapt and evolve, societies and organizations can better withstand shocks and uncertainties. This is especially important in an era marked by rapid technological change and global interdependence. Without this foresight, short-term actions can lead to vulnerabilities that jeopardize progress. The private sector has an important role to play in promoting long-term perspectives. Companies that invest consistently in innovation, employee development, and sustainable practices often outperform those chasing short-term profits. The rise of environmental, social, and governance (ESG) criteria reflects a growing recognition that value creation must consider the broader and longer-term impact. Yet, challenges remain as many markets and investors still emphasize quarterly results over enduring growth. In addition to economic and environmental concerns, long-term thinking is critical in addressing social issues. Education systems, healthcare infrastructure, and social safety nets all require sustained commitment to be effective. Quick fixes or temporary measures can alleviate symptoms but rarely solve underlying problems. Lasting progress depends on policies and programs designed with a future horizon in mind, focused on equity and inclusion. Culturally, embracing long-term thinking means shifting societal values toward patience, persistence, and humility. It means acknowledging that progress is rarely linear or rapid, and setbacks are part of the journey. This perspective can foster greater collaboration and trust, as stakeholders recognize that they are working toward shared goals that transcend immediate interests. Of course, long-term thinking does not mean ignoring the present. It means balancing immediate needs with future priorities, addressing urgent challenges without compromising the ability to solve tomorrow's problems. It requires transparent communication to build public understanding and support for investments that may take time to bear fruit. Ultimately, the choice between short-term gains and long-term thinking shapes the trajectory of our world. It influences how we manage resources, govern societies, innovate technologies, and care for one another. Prioritizing immediate results may provide fleeting victories, but often undermines the foundation for sustainable success. In a time of unprecedented challenges and opportunities, committing to long-term thinking is both a practical necessity and a moral imperative. It is a recognition that we inherit the world from previous generations, and in turn, have an obligation to leave it better for those who follow. By making decisions grounded in foresight, responsibility, and patience, we can build systems and societies that are not only prosperous, but resilient and just. The future is shaped by the choices we make today. Investing in long-term solutions may require courage and conviction, but it holds the promise of transformative and enduring impact. This is the path to real progress, the kind that lasts beyond headlines and election cycles, and truly improves the human condition for generations to come. The future isn't shaped by quick fixes or momentary victories. It is built by the decisions we make today with the well-being of tomorrow in mind. Embracing long-term thinking demands courage, vision, and a willingness to put aside short-term pressures for the greater good. If we can do that, if we can commit to solutions that endure and uplift not just ourselves but generations to come, then the progress we achieve will be lasting, meaningful, and truly transformative. The path forward is clear, and the opportunity to shape a better world lies within our grasp if only we choose to look beyond the immediate and invest in what truly lasts.